"You have to leave now, or they'll find you," Jasmine Collins whispered, her voice barely above the hum of the chandelier lights, but sharp enough to slice through the soft jazz and clinking glasses in the Veritas lounge. The room, dressed in white linen and glinting silverware, seemed to freeze in that instant, the hum of conversation fading into a tense silence as David Harrington, billionaire CEO of Harrington Tech, looked up from his untouched glass of sparkling water, confusion flashing across his sharply chiseled features. Outside, rain pounded against the floor-to-ceiling windows, streaking down in sheets, as if the storm itself was conspiring to heighten the urgency of the moment. Jasmine moved with a calm urgency, her hands steady as she adjusted a silver platter, the movement deliberate but unnoticeable to anyone who wasn't paying attention. Yet every instinct told her this was a moment that demanded immediate action. She had learned to read tension, to recognize when a room was about to erupt, when someone's life or reputation could pivot in the blink of an eye. David, engrossed in reviewing his notes on the upcoming merger, had no idea that the threat wasn't metaphorical, that a hidden problem was unfolding just outside the view of the opulent dining room. Jasmine's almond eyes scanned the room, noting every distracted glance, every faint smile masking impatience, every whisper meant to diminish her presence. Her past had trained her for this. Summers volunteering at emergency preparedness camps, countless nights managing multiple shifts at local bistros, learning to anticipate emergencies and remain composed when others panicked. She had not chosen this life because it was easy, but because she understood that preparedness and quick thinking were invisible powers. She leaned slightly closer to David, ensuring her whisper carried just enough gravity to penetrate his distraction, and added, "They won't wait long." His brow furrowed, the first real emotion of the evening breaking through his composed, practiced veneer of control. Outside, headlights flashed through the rain-soaked street, illuminating silhouettes that could mean nothing, or everything, and David's pulse quickened, a subtle but unmistakable shift in his demeanor. Jasmine's thoughts raced, mapping the layout of the building, the entry points, the potential dangers, every scenario unfolding simultaneously in her mind. She moved fluidly among tables, her presence almost ghost-like, yet intentional, guiding servers and subtly redirecting attention without ever drawing eyes directly to herself, a master of remaining unseen until the precise moment to act. Her voice, calm yet authoritative, carried a weight disproportionate to her frame, the soft syllables of warning wrapping around David like a shield as he finally realized that the unseen threat she had sensed was real, imminent, and that his usual resources and bodyguards might not be positioned to respond quickly enough. In the background, the hum of expensive appliances and low murmur of affluent diners contrasted sharply with the tension Jasmine maintained, her mind ticking through contingency after contingency. The storm outside mirrored the turbulence inside, as she calculated, recalculated, and prepared for the precise instant to intervene, not through confrontation but through guidance, her knowledge of the environment turning the ordinary restaurant space into a tactical map. David's eyes met hers for a fleeting moment, a recognition of competence and calm in a world that often seemed chaotic and unpredictable, and for a heartbeat, he trusted entirely the warning that had come so unexpectedly from someone he had previously dismissed as inconsequential. Every detail mattered. The placement of chairs, the height of the bar, the flickering light of candles creating shadows that might conceal or reveal, the subtle movement of patrons who could inadvertently compromise their position, and Jasmine accounted for it all, moving through the space with the precision of someone who had rehearsed for emergencies countless times. And then, without a word, the storm outside intensified, lightning flashing across the sky, a reminder of urgency, of time slipping away, while Jasmine maintained a composed exterior, her inner mind orchestrating every step David needed to take to avoid the unseen. Peril, her whispered words the invisible thread pulling him along a path that promised safety and, eventually, revelation of the truth that would leave him astonished beyond measure. The soft golden glow of the chandeliers reflected off the polished mahogany tables, casting long, shifting shadows across the Veritas lounge as Jasmine Collins guided David Harrington through the quiet hum of the crowded room. Every footstep was measured, every gesture intentional. As she led him toward the rear exit that opened onto a narrow service corridor, the faint scent of truffle oil and roasted chicken lingering in the air from the evening meal. The storm outside continued to drum against the floor-to-ceiling windows, a relentless reminder of the urgency pressing down on them, and the distant rumble of thunder echoed through the marble floors like a drumbeat, signaling imminent action. David followed closely, the initial shock of Jasmine's warning giving way to a heightened awareness, his gaze scanning the room in tandem with hers, noticing details that had been invisible moments before: the placement of the waiter carts, the subtle shifts in the patrons' postures, the hushed conversations that momentarily ceased as their attention flicked toward the duo, moving with deliberate calm. Jasmine's voice remained steady, almost hypnotic, as she provided clear, concise guidance, outlining each step with precision without a single hint of panic, a testament to the countless hours she had spent mastering composure under pressure. Her eyes caught the reflective surfaces of the crystal wine glasses, adjusting her path to maintain optimal cover, guiding David in a serpentine route that minimized exposure while keeping the route towards safety unobstructed. The atmosphere in the lounge seemed to thicken with anticipation, the ambient jazz now a backdrop to a silent ballet of movement, every motion choreographed by instinct and experience. Jasmine's mind raced ahead, calculating potential bottlenecks and points of vulnerability, all while maintaining the illusion of casual service, her presence unassuming yet commanding, a paradox that allowed them to navigate the space without alarming the unsuspecting patrons. David's usual sense of control, forged through boardrooms and high-stakes negotiations, had little preparation for this level of acute situational awareness, and yet he trusted Jasmine implicitly, sensing that her composure was grounded in knowledge and not assumption. The narrow service corridor emerged ahead, dimly lit by sconces that cast muted pools of light across the tile floor, and Jasmine slowed just slightly, signaling for David to mirror her steps, the small hand gestures nearly imperceptible to any observer, yet conveying a full tactical brief in an instant. The distant flash of lightning illuminated the corridor intermittently, revealing the intricate details of the exit layout, the placement of fire extinguishers, the orientation of doors, all cataloged quickly in her mind as potential aids or obstacles. As they moved, Jasmine subtly shifted her weight to redirect attention away from them, maintaining a balance between stealth and efficiency, her intuition guiding every decision. David's pulse had steadied from the initial surge of fear, replaced by a sharp clarity, a recognition that trust in Jasmine's expertise was as critical as the physical steps themselves. They reached a service door leading to a sheltered alley, the storm's intensity immediately palpable as a cold gust of wind swept in, dampening the cuffs of David's tailored suit and tousling his carefully styled hair. Jasmine paused momentarily, ensuring that the alley was clear of onlookers and vehicles, every sense alert, ears attuned to the rhythm of rainfall and distant traffic, eyes scanning for any anomalies. Once satisfied, she guided David through the narrow exit, her instructions precise and economical, each word carrying the weight of experience and urgency. The city lights refracted off the wet pavement, painting a surreal landscape that heightened the sense of relief and imminent resolution. Jasmine allowed a brief moment to assess David's state, noting the subtle relaxation of his shoulders and the soft exhale that betrayed the first hint of trust settling into confidence. As they moved toward a safer vantage point, the tension in the air seemed to dissipate incrementally, replaced by a palpable anticipation of the revelation that awaited, the truth that would astonish David in ways he had not yet imagined, and Jasmine's calm presence remained the anchor guiding them through the delicate balance of urgency, discretion, and preparation. The alley opened into a quieter side street, the rain now falling in a gentle cascade that softened the harsh reflections of streetlights on the wet pavement. Jasmine Collins led David Harrington with careful precision, every movement calculated to maintain awareness while ensuring they remained inconspicuous. The muffled sounds of the city, the distant hum of traffic, and the occasional squeal of a tire on the slick asphalt contrasted with the earlier tension inside the lounge, creating a surreal calm that made every step feel heightened and deliberate. David's mind raced, the initial adrenaline subsiding to a steady, alert focus, his eyes following Jasmine's subtle cues, her posture and glances signaling which directions were safest to move. She paused briefly at the corner, peering around the edge of the building to confirm that no one had noticed their exit, then motioned for David to follow closely behind as she guided him toward a small, secluded courtyard that provided both cover and a vantage point to reassess the situation. The courtyard was bordered by low hedges and wrought iron fencing, the damp foliage glistening in the streetlight, and Jasmine took advantage of the natural concealment to allow David a moment to breathe, the crisp night air filling his lungs and heightening his senses. Her voice remained low and measured, instructing him on minor adjustments in position, how to remain out of sight, and how to keep movements subtle but effective, each tip demonstrating the meticulous awareness that had made her such an effective guide in moments of uncertainty. David began to notice the small details he had overlooked before, the patterns of light and shadow created by the uneven glow of lamps, the distant figures of pedestrians moving along the sidewalks without noticing them, and the subtle shifts in the environment that could indicate a potential approach or interference. Jasmine's instructions were precise, yet fluid, blending seamlessly with the rhythm of the street and the falling rain, creating a choreography of safety that felt almost instinctual. She recounted, quietly, her prior experiences navigating high-pressure situations in the hospitality and service sectors, moments where observation and intuition had made the difference between order and chaos, each anecdote underscoring her skill and composure without a trace of boastfulness. David's confidence grew as he internalized her cues, his initial skepticism replaced by trust and the realization that her expertise extended far beyond the walls of any restaurant or lounge he had known. The storm began to abate slightly, the raindrops thinning into a gentle drizzle, and the courtyard seemed to open up a path toward a larger, less exposed street, one that could lead them safely away from any immediate concern. Jasmine continued to guide him with subtle gestures and quiet directions, the cadence of her speech matching the natural pauses of the city night, every word deliberate, every glance a signal. David noticed the meticulous care with which she assessed each doorway, each corner, each reflective surface, anticipating what might be hidden or revealed, demonstrating a level of situational awareness that was both impressive and humbling. As they moved through the courtyard, the distant sound of a clock tower chiming marked the passage of time, anchoring their movement in a temporal rhythm that contrasted with the tension that had dominated the earlier moments. Jasmine's calm presence acted as a stabilizing force, allowing David to process the unfolding situation with clarity and composure, his usual reliance on security detail replaced by reliance on instinct and trust in her judgment. The courtyard widened, the low light revealing a path to a side street lined with closed shops, their facades reflecting the subtle glow of neon signs, and Jasmine adjusted their route to maintain cover while keeping the route as direct as possible. Every movement was deliberate, each step synchronized with her careful scanning of the environment, creating a seamless passage through a space that could have easily been overwhelming or disorienting. David followed without hesitation, his confidence now fully aligned with Jasmine's guidance, the shared focus and mutual understanding forming an unspoken bond that transcended their prior roles of server and guest. As they approached the end of the side street, a gentle breeze stirred the rain-soaked leaves, and Jasmine signaled for a brief pause, her eyes narrowing as she assessed the surroundings one last time, ensuring that the path ahead remained safe and unobstructed, preparing both of them for the final segment of their carefully navigated journey. The narrow side street widened into a small plaza, the rain having subsided to a gentle drizzle that shimmered under the streetlights, casting reflections on the wet cobblestones. Jasmine Collins led David Harrington to a bench tucked beneath a tall oak tree, its branches swaying slightly in the cool night breeze. The hum of the city felt distant here, muffled by the surrounding buildings, creating a rare pocket of quiet in which clarity could settle. Jasmine gestured for David to sit, her voice calm and reassuring as she explained that this temporary pause would allow them to assess the situation fully before continuing. His tailored suit was damp from the earlier downpour, sleeves clinging lightly to his arms, but his attention was entirely on her, absorbing every word, every measured instruction. She moved with ease, hands occasionally adjusting the folds of his coat, the subtle gestures emphasizing the practical steps that would ensure safety without drawing unwanted attention. As he caught his breath, David noticed the meticulous observation in her eyes, the way she scanned the plaza, noting every alley, doorway, and shadow, cataloging potential obstacles and alternative paths with a precision that went beyond ordinary experience. Jasmine's presence was both commanding and understated, a balance that made David aware of the trust he placed in her guidance, the implicit knowledge that every movement had been considered, every possibility weighed. The light drizzle created a soft patter on the cobblestones, mingling with the faint rustle of leaves and the occasional distant honk of a horn, forming a rhythm that punctuated their brief moment of pause, allowing both to prepare mentally for the next steps. Jasmine spoke briefly of her past experiences, moments when split-second decisions had prevented mishaps and allowed for seamless navigation through high-pressure situations, her anecdotes demonstrating that calm observation and quick thinking could make the difference between uncertainty and control. David listened intently, noting the contrast between the controlled environment of boardrooms he knew so well and the dynamic, unpredictable environment they now navigated, realizing that Jasmine's skill set extended far beyond what he had previously assumed. She pointed out subtle cues in the surroundings, the way shadows shifted with passing streetlights, the potential reflections from glass storefronts, and the sound cues that might indicate approaching figures, each observation reinforcing the importance of vigilance and foresight. The plaza offered clear sight lines in multiple directions, giving Jasmine an advantage in monitoring any movement while simultaneously allowing them to plan the safest route forward. David began to feel a growing confidence in the methods she employed, a recognition that her calm demeanor and precise guidance were not merely instinctual, but the result of deliberate training and experience. Jasmine continued to direct their movements with a measured cadence, each step deliberate and synchronized with her assessment of the environment, ensuring that David maintained both physical safety and situational awareness. The subtle glow of neon signs from surrounding buildings reflected softly on the wet pavement, creating an almost cinematic backdrop as they moved through the space, the contrast of light and shadow emphasizing their presence, yet allowing them to remain inconspicuous to any casual observer. As they prepared to continue along the next segment of their carefully charted path, Jasmine signaled a brief pause once more, her eyes scanning the perimeter for any unexpected changes or potential obstacles, the combination of her calm authority and attentive observation providing David with a sense of security and clarity he had not anticipated when the night began. Every detail mattered: the texture of the cobblestones, the direction of the wind, the distant murmurs of the city. All of it factored into her ongoing assessment, allowing them to move forward with confidence toward the eventual revelation that would reshape David's understanding of the evening and the quiet authority of the person guiding him through it. The city lights flickered through the drizzle as Jasmine Collins guided David Harrington into a narrow passage that led toward a quieter street, the faint glow of lampposts reflecting off the wet pavement in a golden hue that softened the shadows of the evening. Every step was deliberate, measured, as Jasmine maintained a calm authority that contrasted with the tension still lingering in David's posture. He followed her closely, absorbing her subtle cues, the slight shifts of her shoulders, the direction of her gaze, each a silent instruction that allowed them to move efficiently while remaining vigilant. The distant murmur of traffic and the occasional echo of footsteps in the alleyways provided a soundtrack to their cautious progress, a rhythm that Jasmine used to gauge the timing of their movements. She gestured toward a series of low fences and carefully aligned hedges, indicating the optimal path to maintain cover while advancing, her voice low and steady, guiding David with precise clarity without drawing unnecessary attention. He noted the meticulous attention she paid to every reflective surface, the way she anticipated potential sight lines from windows and doorways, adjusting their path accordingly. Jasmine's experience in high-pressure situations had honed her instincts to an almost preternatural level. She navigated the space with fluidity and control, every movement purposeful, ensuring that the environment itself became an ally rather than a source of vulnerability. David's mind, trained for corporate strategy and negotiation, began to appreciate the subtlety and skill required for situational awareness in real time, recognizing that her calm demeanor and decisiveness were the result of practice, observation, and careful planning. The drizzle lightened, creating a delicate sheen on the cobblestones, and Jasmine paused momentarily under the soft illumination of a street lamp, scanning the surroundings with a practiced eye, noting the distant figures of pedestrians and the occasional flicker of light that could indicate a potential hazard. She directed David to adjust his pace and position, maintaining a balance between discretion and progress, every instruction delivered with precision and calm authority. The passage opened into a small courtyard lined with neatly arranged planters and wrought iron benches, providing both cover and a vantage point to assess their next steps. Jasmine moved along the edge, her eyes constantly scanning, her movements calculated to minimize exposure while maximizing situational control. David's confidence grew, a mixture of relief and astonishment as he realized the extent of her skill, the way she transformed an ordinary urban space into a carefully navigated environment that ensured safety and control. The ambient sounds of the city softened further as they reached the center of the courtyard, a temporary pause that allowed for strategic reassessment. Jasmine's guidance was relentless yet unobtrusive, every word, every gesture carefully calibrated to maintain their security and momentum. She explained the potential routes forward, highlighting visual and auditory cues that might signal changes in their environment. Her focus unwavering as she balanced the need for immediate action with the anticipation of events yet to unfold. David followed her instructions to the letter, the synergy between their movements creating an almost seamless navigation through the urban landscape. As they prepared to advance toward a broader street with increased visibility and safer passage, Jasmine's careful assessment and steady presence ensured that every decision was informed, precise, and grounded in her thorough understanding of spatial dynamics, environmental cues, and the subtle rhythms of the night. The combination of vigilance, expertise, and quiet authority allowed David to experience a rare sense of clarity and reassurance. A recognition that the person guiding him through the complex and unpredictable urban terrain possessed an exceptional awareness and an unwavering commitment to ensuring his safety while revealing, in time, the astonishing truth that would reshape his understanding of the evening. The street opened into a wider avenue, the night air carrying the faint scent of damp asphalt and city life, the glow of traffic signals casting red and green reflections across the rain-slicked pavement. Jasmine Collins guided David Harrington with a quiet intensity, each step deliberate, as she navigated toward a side entrance to a small, unassuming building that would offer shelter and clarity. The ambient noise of distant cars and occasional footsteps created a backdrop that heightened awareness rather than distraction, every sound a cue in the meticulous mental map Jasmine maintained. She gestured for David to follow her closely, keeping his movements subtle, and spoke in calm, measured tones, outlining each potential risk and signaling changes in direction with almost imperceptible hand motions. David absorbed her instructions, noticing the precision in her observations, the angle of light from a street lamp, the brief reflections in shop windows, the pattern of shadows on the pavement, all meticulously noted to avoid exposure. Jasmine paused at a corner, listening intently to the distant rhythm of the city, the faint patter of remaining drizzle on rooftops and gutters adding a soft percussion that punctuated the quiet intensity of the moment. Her presence was both reassuring and commanding, an anchor for David as he adjusted his own posture and pace to match her guidance. She moved fluidly, adjusting to the environment, guiding him through narrow walkways, past alleys, and around obstacles, transforming the ordinary urban landscape into a carefully navigated space that maximized safety and minimized unpredictability. David began to feel the calm clarity Jasmine's guidance provided, his senses sharpening to the subtle cues she had trained him to notice, from the slight movement of leaves in a breeze to the distant echo of footsteps that might otherwise have gone unnoticed. The building ahead offered a temporary sanctuary, its entrance recessed beneath a protective awning, and Jasmine led him toward it with deliberate caution, scanning the surroundings for any hint of potential interference. She spoke softly, explaining each choice and movement, reinforcing confidence while maintaining awareness. Her words measured to reduce distraction and emphasize the tactical importance of observation. David followed each instruction, trusting her judgment implicitly, his usual reliance on security and support replaced by focus and attentiveness, his understanding of situational awareness expanding in real time. The avenue stretched ahead with minimal obstruction, and Jasmine adjusted their path to take advantage of cover provided by parked vehicles and planters, every step synchronized to maintain efficiency and discretion. As they moved, the city's ambient light cast long reflections across the wet pavement, highlighting the careful choreography of their movement, while the subtle sounds of urban life created a continuous flow of environmental information that Jasmine integrated seamlessly into her guidance. David noticed the meticulous detail in her assessment, how she anticipated every possible hazard and provided clear, actionable direction, the combination of skill, calm, and foresight allowing him to focus fully on her instructions without fear or distraction. They reached the entrance of the building, a momentary pause allowing Jasmine to survey the surroundings one final time, confirming that the route they had taken had maintained safety and control throughout. Her eyes reflected a practiced vigilance, a quiet confidence in her ability to navigate both space and circumstance, and David experienced a deep sense of respect and relief, realizing the magnitude of the unseen work and thought that had gone into guiding him safely to this point. The night continued around them, yet in this small, illuminated enclave, a sense of order and security prevailed, a tangible testament to Jasmine's skill, presence, and unwavering focus as she prepared for the final stages of the evening's revelation, a truth that would leave David Harrington profoundly surprised and deeply aware of the quiet authority and capability of the person who had guided him through the complexity of the night. As Jasmine Collins led David Harrington toward the entrance of the building, a soft glow from the overhead lamps illuminated a small plaque beside the door, its polished surface reflecting their movements in subtle detail. The quiet street, now almost deserted, carried a peaceful stillness that contrasted sharply with the earlier tension, yet the night retained a sense of anticipation, as if the city itself was holding its breath. Jasmine guided David up the shallow steps and through the doorway, the interior of the lobby unexpectedly warm and inviting, the faint scent of polished wood and clean fabric replacing the dampness of the streets. She motioned for him to pause, her eyes scanning the interior for potential hazards, though none appeared, each gesture conveying careful attention and preparation. David's focus shifted from concern to observation, noticing the intricate woodwork of the stair railing, the soft hum of lighting fixtures overhead, and the subtle patterns in the tiled floor, all details that Jasmine had likely considered in her assessment of the space. She directed him to a corner with comfortable seating, where the light was soft enough to provide clarity without glare, and instructed him to take a seat while she quickly checked the surroundings once more, ensuring their continued safety and privacy. The room offered a calm refuge, allowing for reflection on the events that had unfolded, the measured guidance and quiet competence of Jasmine providing a sense of reassurance that contrasted with the disorientation of the previous moments. David adjusted his posture, his eyes meeting hers, and in that instant, there was a mutual acknowledgement of the trust that had developed between them, an unspoken understanding of the precision and care that had brought them safely to this point. Jasmine's movements were deliberate as she returned, her calm presence acting as a stabilizing force, each step deliberate, silent, and purposeful, a demonstration of her ability to navigate both environment and circumstance with skill and foresight. David's mind began to process the sequence of events, appreciating the layers of preparation, observation, and intuition that had guided them, realizing that the outcome had relied as much on her insight as it had on his own reactions. Jasmine spoke in low, measured tones, recounting subtle observations and choices made to maintain their safety, the explanations providing clarity and a sense of empowerment, allowing David to understand the depth of her awareness and the precision of her guidance. Outside, the streetlights flickered softly, casting long, gentle shadows across the entryway, and the quiet patter of residual drizzle on the pavement added a rhythmic accompaniment to their conversation, creating a serene environment in which the tension of the earlier moments began to dissolve. David absorbed every detail, the clarity and calm imparted by Jasmine transforming his perspective on the evening, highlighting the value of preparedness, observation, and trust in high-stakes situations. Jasmine's steady presence remained a constant anchor, her eyes continually assessing, calculating, and guiding with a combination of instinct and training that made every movement purposeful and every decision informed. As the moments passed, a sense of completion began to settle over them. The realization that the critical phase of the night had concluded safely, yet the anticipation of revelation and understanding hung lightly in the air, a promise that the full significance of the events they had navigated would soon become apparent. The interplay of light, shadow, and ambient sounds created an almost cinematic setting, framing the final steps of their journey with clarity and focus, allowing David to reflect on the meticulous care and foresight that had been employed throughout, instilling a profound appreciation for the quiet authority and competence Jasmine exhibited. Each detail, from the arrangement of furniture to the subtle shifts in her posture and gaze, reinforced the calm, methodical approach that had guided them successfully, leaving David with a deep understanding of the balance between observation, intuition, and action that had defined the evening's navigation, and preparing him for the impending revelation that would illuminate the full extent of Jasmine Collins' insight and the unexpected truth that had shaped the night. As they settled into the quiet interior of the building, Jasmine Collins guided David Harrington to a small area with a broad window overlooking the city, the lights reflecting softly on the damp streets below. The cityscape stretched out in a tapestry of glowing windows and scattered traffic, each movement distant and muted, providing a calm contrast to the intensity of the night they had just navigated. Jasmine leaned against a polished railing, her eyes briefly scanning the streets beyond, before turning to David with a measured calm that conveyed both reassurance and authority. He sat with a sense of controlled relief, absorbing the steady rhythm of her breathing and the subtle cadence of her movements, recognizing that every step of the journey had been orchestrated with thought and precision. She spoke quietly, explaining the series of calculated choices that had guided them safely through the maze of streets and alleys, her voice clear and composed, each word reinforcing the meticulous planning and keen observation that had ensured their security. David observed her attentively, noting the effortless balance between vigilance and composure, how she maintained awareness without tension, transforming ordinary elements, the reflection of a street lamp, the faint echo of footsteps, the pattern of shadows, into tools that informed each decision. Jasmine described the reasoning behind route adjustments, her attention to light, sound, and spatial layout, illustrating a depth of situational understanding that David had rarely witnessed outside of high-stakes business strategy. The soft drizzle continued outside, painting the city in delicate reflections, the rhythm of water on pavement adding a quiet musicality to the scene, and Jasmine moved subtly to reposition them in relation to the window, providing both visibility and shelter. David began to perceive the layers of planning embedded in each movement, the foresight required to anticipate environmental changes, and the seamless integration of intuition and logic that allowed Jasmine to maintain control without drawing notice. The ambient city noises, a distant siren, the hum of traffic, the occasional pedestrian, served as subtle cues, each interpreted and leveraged by Jasmine to refine their positioning and ensure uninterrupted safety. She adjusted her stance slightly, providing visual and spatial guidance without words, demonstrating how subtle cues could communicate critical information efficiently, a skill honed through experience and deliberate practice. David felt a growing sense of understanding and trust, his mind piecing together the careful orchestration of timing, positioning, and environmental awareness that had characterized the evening, recognizing that the precision of Jasmine's guidance was the foundation of their successful navigation. The window offered a view of the soft glow of streetlights across the wet asphalt, their reflections creating a fluid, dynamic canvas that shifted with every passing vehicle and pedestrian. And Jasmine used this as an opportunity to explain how awareness of movement and light could inform safety and decision-making. David's focus sharpened as he followed her subtle indicators. Internalizing the techniques she demonstrated, the combination of observation, anticipation, and deliberate action creating a model for situational awareness that he could rely upon. The calm of the interior space allowed for reflection, the contrast between the earlier tension and the present serenity highlighting the effectiveness of Jasmine's guidance and the foresight that had transformed a potentially disorienting situation into one of controlled clarity. As they prepared to transition from the windowed area to a more secure internal section of the building, Jasmine's deliberate movements, keen observation, and quiet authority continued to provide the framework for safety and clarity, allowing David to process the sequence of events with comprehension and appreciation for the skill, judgment, and composure that had defined the night's navigation, setting the stage for the eventual revelation of the truth that had remained just beyond reach until this carefully orchestrated sequence of calm, precise guidance. The soft glow of the lobby lights reflected off the polished marble floors as Jasmine Collins led David Harrington further into the building, a subtle sense of calm replacing the heightened tension of their earlier journey. Every detail of the space seemed meticulously observed, from the subtle patterns of light through the blinds to the placement of furniture that allowed clear lines of sight without drawing attention. Jasmine's movements were purposeful yet unassuming, guiding David toward a quiet alcove that offered both privacy and perspective, the gentle hum of the air conditioning mingling with the distant sounds of the city beyond. David's eyes followed her closely, noting how she adjusted her path to avoid reflective surfaces that might reveal their presence, and how her posture conveyed confidence and awareness without a hint of haste or alarm. The interior was warm, inviting, and impeccably maintained, the subtle fragrance of polished wood and fresh upholstery creating an atmosphere that encouraged focus and reflection. Jasmine gestured for David to take a seat, and as he did, she paused, scanning the entry points and nearby hallways, her gaze sharp yet composed, cataloging possibilities, confirming safety, and preparing for the next critical moment. The soft illumination of the lamps cast long, gentle shadows that shifted with each movement, emphasizing the subtle choreography of spatial awareness Jasmine had mastered. She spoke in calm, deliberate tones, explaining the reasoning behind their careful navigation, the selection of paths, and the assessment of environmental cues, each word reinforcing a sense of clarity and preparedness that David had begun to internalize. He listened intently, understanding for the first time the depth of situational awareness required to move through a complex environment with both discretion and confidence. Jasmine highlighted details that might have been overlooked, the angles of light, the reflections in glass surfaces, the subtle echoes in hallways, showing how observation, anticipation, and thoughtful action combined to create a controlled, predictable experience even in an unpredictable setting. David's mind absorbed the rhythm and logic of her guidance, the interplay of movement, timing, and environmental assessment, building a clear understanding of how a calm, observant presence could influence outcomes without overt force or alarm. The building's interior, with its quiet elegance, became a stage for reflection and comprehension, allowing David to appreciate the careful orchestration that had guided them safely to this point. Jasmine's calm and precise presence conveyed authority without dominance, and the quiet confidence in her demeanor allowed David to relax while maintaining awareness, a delicate balance between trust and attentiveness. Outside, the remaining drizzle created soft reflections on the pavement, the distant city lights shimmering like scattered gems, reinforcing the contrast between the external chaos and the composed interior. David began to grasp the broader lesson of the evening, that preparation, observation, and calm execution could transform uncertainty into clarity, that awareness and intuition were as powerful as any resource he had relied upon in his corporate life. Jasmine's subtle gestures, careful adjustments, and unspoken communication underscored the skill and foresight that had defined their movement, preparing both for the imminent revelation of the truth that had remained just beyond perception until this moment. The gentle ambience of the space, the quiet rhythm of their breathing, and the precise coordination of observation and action created a final sense of resolution, a moment of understanding and respect between guide and protected, as David fully comprehended the significance of Jasmine Collins' insight, authority, and calm mastery of every variable in the environment, setting the stage for the concluding revelation that would illuminate the entire sequence of events with clarity and profound impact.